Just days before the election, Senator Mary Landrieu is throwing up what I find to be an extremely questionable Hail Mary in comments about her opponent in that race, Representative Bill Cassidy, the Republican. She's going to talk about why she thinks voters down there dislike the president.
Why does President Obama have a hard time in Louisiana?
There are any number of reasons, but you know, one of the main reasons is because his energy policies are really different than ours. I mean, we are a pro-production state. He put the moratorium on offshore drilling, remember, after Macondo, and our state was furious about that.
So they're criticizing the energy policies, but I do want to jump ahead to where it gets a little bit racial.
To be very, very honest with you, in the South has not always been the friendliest place for African Americans. It's been a difficult time for the president to present himself in a very positive light as a leader. It's not always been a good place for women to be able to present ourselves. It's more of a conservative place. So we've had to work a little bit harder on that.
So they're being clear, problems for African Americans in the South because of the way that they're portrayed. Possibly she's tying in the president there as well. Maybe they don't respect him because he's African American. And she throws in on top of all of that women have a harder time. Things that seem probably pretty obvious to us, but they are extremely controversial, and she's getting a lot of strike back for it.
It's completely unsurprising and totally expected that Republicans will lose their shit over this, and they have, right? So, how dare you? Are you calling all of us racist? So it's obviously a very bold gambit, which leads you to a couple of conclusions. First of all, understand something. This is not a slip-up. She very much meant to say this, strategized about it, and it wasn't like a question caught her off guard. She said this on purpose. Okay, so that leads to several conclusions. Number one, she's losing. She wouldn't have taken as big a risk like this, possibly insulting a lot of white people in Louisiana, if she wasn't, in her internal polls, down to the point where she thinks if we had the election today, she would lose. Okay. Number two conclusion is she really needs African Americans to turn out and vote. She also needs women to turn out and vote, and she thinks, I've convinced everybody I can convince. Now the question is how many people are going to turn out. So I need to energize black people and women to go out and vote for me. And the way that I do that is by saying, I hear you. I know your troubles. I know the racism and the sexism you've had to deal with down here. I'm on your side. Please come out and vote. Now, the extra element to that is that she's not the only one doing that. So many Democrats across the country are now talking about race. And I think that what they have concluded in mass is we need the Obama voters. And we did well when Obama ran in 2008. We did well in 2012. The reason we did is because so many African American voters showed up. We need them to show up again without Obama on the ballot. And this is our best chance of making them show up.
Republican voters much more consistent in the awful year elections, much more consistent. In fact, but you know, I don't know if you heard, but Rick Perry was so upset and so angry at Mary Landrieu for saying the South was racist that he canceled his weekend at Niggerhead Ranch.
If you don't remember that story, that is literally the name of his ranch. They finally did like whiteout on the boulder that it was on, etc., when he was running for president. Yeah. Not when he was running for governor, not when he was running for mayor, but like all the way to near the end of his career when he's running for president. He's like, oh, it's inconvenient that I go to a ranch called Niggerhead.
Well, but when you're younger, you don't understand the historical context. I mean, when you're 35 or so, like you don't get why that would turn people off.
Yeah, at 52, you're still not quite sure. In the year 2011, you weren't positive. So, look, to John's point, is that like now this has become a controversial point. But really, the fact that some African Americans don't get a fair shake down in the South is a controversial point?
This is news to people. This is news to people. Ignore everything you've ever seen, read, or experienced because the South is not racist, and they know the South isn't racist because it says so right on the back of their long-form birth certificates.
Yeah. So Bill Cassidy, going against Mary Landrieu there, has responded. We have some video of that as well.
Your reaction to Senator Landrieu's comments?
Yeah, people in Louisiana care deeply about our country. They are being bombarded by his regulations. They don't understand Obamacare. Can't imagine why he won't approve Keystone XL pipeline. When under our Constitution we work through the political process to change directions, we're called racist. I wish you'd focus more on policies instead of insulting us. I got to tell you, when people in Louisiana look at Obamacare and his regulatory regime and him going after their jobs, that's the reason they oppose him. That's the reason they oppose her. She supports him 97% of the time. We're not racist. We just have common sense.
So it's not that they have an irrational, emotional opposition to groups of people based on race. It's that they have common sense. Those people are obviously bad for America.
But I thought they stopped running against Obamacare. I thought, isn't that still, that's a loser now when they go against Obamacare because everyone realizes that it's kind of working, especially even in places like Kentucky, even in Kentucky, right? So it doesn't get much more redneck than that, does it?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, I've been to
Kentucky's
Kentucky.
practically the North.
No, it's not. Would you eat sushi in Kentucky anyway?
Yeah, you can.
I know you can, but no. I thought that. Am I wrong about the Obamacare thing, though? I thought that was a
In many
loser.
places they have given up on it, but of course, yeah, economically, some states are far worse off, and those people, just because of their naturally lower level of socioeconomic success, many of which probably can't afford health care, even with the new system, probably going to be more naturally predisposed against it.
So it depends on state by state. So in the states that have expanded Medicaid, like in Ohio, they realize they love it. They love it. So that's why the governor's flipped and been like, "What are you talking? I love Obamacare. It's not Obamacare. It's the expansion of Medicaid, which is Obamacare." Okay. So, but in some deep red states, they have not expanded Medicaid. Right. So since they have not given their own citizens the fruits of Obamacare that other citizens enjoy, they can still demonize it, and people don't know how good it is in other states. So they're almost like stuck in one of those valleys in Afghanistan that's like removed from the outside world, right? They don't know what's going on. The Americans show up, they're like, "What the fuck are these guys doing here? Let's fight them," right? So in Louisiana, goddamn Obamacare, yeah, I hate that thing. What? They're like, little do they know, if it had been applied, they would have loved it. So it's the great irony that they dicked over their own people that leads them to be able to continue to demonize Obamacare, which would help them.
Or it could be that in states where you have to appeal, where the Republicans feel obligated to appeal to more moderate or higher political sophistication voters, they might know that they know enough about Obamacare that you can no longer sort of try to pass off those very casual lies. Whereas there, where he's probably relying on motivating the extremely conservative, low information base, you can say whatever he wants, they still think of Obamacare as a bad thing. It's the people in the middle that he might be disregarding that would actually be swayed by the successes of Obamacare in some states.